Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Spilling Tea. Merry Stupid Not O'Clock. I am your host, Tiffany Daniels, and we are going to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do, the usual disclaimers and an announcement. So, announcement first. So, we are one day from my birthday. And because I work tomorrow and I will be celebrating about around 11:30 on Friday, we are going to be doing the birthday stream this afternoon. And because I have to go to bed at a halfway decent time and I get up at stupid o'clock a.m. every day on a work day, we are going to be doing that about around 1:30 this afternoon Central Standard Time, 2:30 Central Standard Time, and the UK is about 6 hours ahead, so please do the math there. Because I don't want to. Now that the announcement is done, the usual disclaimers. First off, you are going to see the legal documents that we are reviewing, as well as the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, right there in the description box, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, where we get the bulk of our materials for this channel on this subject. We also have the ever-present templates. Please, folks, my birthday is tomorrow. The biggest birthday gift I could ever get in the world would be to end adversive therapies, improper restraint, and seclusion inside public schools. Sign your name, click on your senator, share on all your social media and repeatedly on Twitter. It's the one thing I ask for all of you for my birthday this year, okay? All right, and we also have the ever-present change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. It's self-explanatory. And folks, when we are talking about the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of, as well as see clips of video surveillance footage of peoples with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you have young children present, please use your headphones. Also, it is 9:46 a.m. in the morning. It may not be stupid o'clock, but if you think I'm all here, I got a river in Egypt I can sell you. So if I stumble over any of my words, my apologies in advance. And for all clearing of my throat, I do not have an edit button. Allergies are bad here, folks. Apologies. So, back to where we left off yesterday. As and for a seventh cause of action against Freeport School District for the infliction of emotional distress. Do tell. Plaintiffs repeat and reallege each and every allegation set forth in paragraphs 1 to 122 above, as if they were more fully set forth at length below. Despite the fact that the Freeport School District knew of the type of adversive therapy used by the JRC, including but not limited to shock therapy, JRC's reasoning and rationale behind the administration of adversive therapy, and that the same prohibited in the New York State school system, the Freeport School District placed Antwone at JRC and consented to the use of adverse punishment on Antwone. My question is for New York. How was the school able to give consent one hand on the other? Isn't that in the parents' ballpark? I wouldn't think that a school should be able to overrule a parent. I think that a school should not be able to place a student anywhere. That should be at the parent's discretion, not the school district. I'm not familiar at all with New York special education law, mainly out here in Missouri. But out here, the parents are the ultimate authority, not the school district, at least until the student reaches a certain level of age in which we become the ones who make the ultimate decision. Accordingly, the Freeport School District placed Antwone at JRC, intending for the JRC to cause Antwone to be subjected to emotional distress, and they intentionally caused and inflicted emotional distress upon Antwone, which caused Antwone serious personal injuries as well as severe emotional and mental anguish and anxiety. As a result, plaintiffs have been damaged in a sum to be determined at trial, as in 4/8 cause of action against the JRC for negligence. Plaintiffs repeat and reallege each and every allegation set forth in paragraphs 1 through 126 above, as if it were more fully set forth at length below. JRC, as a school, contracting with the Freeport School District to provide education, training, and treatment to Antwone, owed to Antwone a quasi-parental duty to provide supervision to ensure Antwone's safety and to prevent foreseeable injury to Antwone from instruments, dangerous conditions, and harm by third parties. There is a special relationship between JRC and Antwone that calls for greater security protection of Antwone because the JRC assumed physical custody and control over Antwone and therefore acted in loco parentis. The supervision duty imposed upon the JRC as the school having had physical custody and control over Antwone is unqualified and mandatory. JRC had a duty to provide Antwone with competent instructors and properly licensed professionals qualified to educate, train, and treat Antwone. The JRC had a duty not to provide Antwone with or to condone highly improper, controversial, experimental educational and treatment practices. JRC had a duty to provide a safe environment for Antwone, which was conducive to Antwone's education and treatment. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the JRC negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, subjected Antwone to physical aversive therapy, including but not limited to the administration of electric shocks for punishment purposes and as an alleged behavioral deterrent. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the JRC negligently and recklessly, in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, housed students with conductive disorders together, thereby creating an environment wherein such students would band together and plan assaultive coordinative behavior, such as attacks on other students. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the JRC negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, created housing procedures which facilitated disruptive behavior and coerced dangerous behavior. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the JRC negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, admitted higher level students with conduct disorders, which created significant risks of exacerbating assaultive, coordinative, disruptive, and dangerous behavior. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the JRC negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, placed higher functioning students with conduct disorders in housing with autistic and mentally retarded students. Really? In 2006, you're still using the R word. Really? Really? Wow. Wow. Really? And can we stop with the functioning levels? Stop it. Stop it. Really? Really? Because you all in the medical community can sit there with your appeal to authority all you want, but I live with this disorder every goddamn day of my life. Functioning levels do infinitely more damage than they do good. They exclude services from people who absolutely need them, can rip away services from people who still need them, whether we are hitting the markers or not. You use it as an excuse to rip away services or deny services to the quote unquote high functioning. You want to know what happens when that happens? I can tell you personally from my own life, it goes downhill very, very quickly. I ended up losing everything and making terrible, terrible decisions that are still affecting me right now, even while we speak. Okay? Functioning does nothing, nothing at all, but try to separate us who have these diagnoses, for one, pit this us against them mentality, which I can admit I had for a time. I had that for a time. And why did I have it? Because this idea of functional levels, okay? They don't exist. Functionality actually fluctuates. And until science manages to catch up, you got a lot of people that are at risk for harm and loss of services that they need in order to keep hitting those mile markers you all are so intent that we reach. Yet you yank them away as soon as we reach them and then wonder why we're not doing it anymore. Think on it. Functioning levels do infinitely more harm than good. We gotta stop. We gotta stop. What we need to do is start forming treatment on an individual basis as opposed to forming and creating it around functioning levels. Just saying. But moving on. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the JRC negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety created an environment wherein Antwone witnessed other students receive excruciating painful shocks to the GED, while at times placed on a board face down and tied onto the board with their arms above their heads and their legs spread for in some instances 6 or 7 hours a day. Oh my God. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the JRC negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, forced Antwone and the other students at the JRC to eat only those foods that are vegan without option or choice. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the JRC negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, employed untrained, unlicensed, and unqualified staff members who made decisions concerning Antwone's education, training, and treatment. Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! My God, how long have I been saying this, folks? How long have I been saying this? When you all think that 3 weeks is plenty of training enough to put somebody straight out of high school into a position of power like this, you're insane. It is an absolute recipe for disaster. Moving on. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the JRC negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, created an environment wherein Antwone would witness staff members of JRC restrain and beat students. Jesus. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the JRC negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, administered adversive therapy and knew or should have known the same would cause injury and damage to Antwone. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the JRC negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, failed to develop a legal or appropriate ITP or IEP or similar plan for Antwone's education, training, and treatment. I wonder how many people are teachers there that are actually qualified to teach. This is something I thought would be interesting to find out. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the JRC negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, failed to provide adequate and or appropriate supervision of its students. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, The JRC I can't talk. Negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, ran as a psychological laboratory, wherein students, including but not limited to Antwone, were used as experimental test cases for the benefit of the JRC and its director, Dr. Israel. This tea is tasting exceptionally good this morning. Do go on. Speak the truth. Shout it from the rooftops. These people torture us. The JRC knew or should have known that all aforementioned created an unreasonable and unforeseeable risk of physical and emotional injury to Antwone, and that JRC allowed and caused same to continue, causing physical and psychological injury to Antwone. The above referenced breaches of duty of care and negligent conduct caused Antwone serious physical injuries as well as severe emotional and mental anguish and anxiety. As a result, the plaintiffs have been damaged in amount to be determined at trial. As a result of JRC's reckless, wanton disregard of Antwone's life, safety, and well-being, punitive damages are appropriately awarded. As for the ninth cause of action against Freeport School District for negligence, plaintiffs repeat and reallege each and every allegation set forth in paragraphs I through 150 above, as if the same were more fully set forth at length below. The Freeport School District, as the school district within which the plaintiffs reside, had the duty to place Antwone in an appropriate school, which would provide Antwone with a free, appropriate public education. The Freeport School District had the duty to place Antwone in an appropriate school, which would provide Antwone with proper supervision to ensure Antwone's safety and would have prevent foreseeable injury to Antwone from instruments, dangerous conditions, and harm by third parties. The Freeport School District had the duty to place Antwone in an appropriate school with competent instructors and licensed professionals who could properly and competently educate, train, and treat Antwone. The Freeport School District had the duty not to place Antwone in a school which implemented highly improper, controversial, experimental education, treatment, and practices. The Freeport School District had a duty to monitor education, treatment, and training provided to Antwone by the JRC to ensure that it was safe and appropriate for Antwone. The Freeport School District had the duty to work in conjunction with the JRC and Ms. Nicholson to develop an IEP, ITP, or similar plan for the education, treatment, and training of Antwone. The Freeport School District had the duty to ensure the education, treatment, and training received by Antwone at the JRC was in compliance with policies and procedures of New York State agencies that operate the educational programs. The Freeport School District had the duty to ensure that the JRC did not use or inflict corporal punishment in direct contravention of New York State's and Freeport School District's policy regarding no corporal punishment. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the Freeport School District negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, failed to place Antwone in an appropriate school which would provide Antwone with a free, appropriate public education. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the Freeport School District negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, failed to place Antwone in an appropriate school which would provide Antwone with proper supervision to ensure Antwone's safety and which would prevent foreseeable injury to Antwone from instruments, dangerous conditions, and harm by third parties. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the Freeport School District recklessly and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety failed to place Antwone in an appropriate school of competent instructors and licensed professionals who could properly and completely educate, train, and treat Antwone. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the Freeport School District negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety placed Antwone in a school which implemented highly improper, controversial, experimental education, treatment, and practices. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the Freeport School District negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety failed to monitor the education, treatment, and training provided to Antwone by the JRC to ensure that it was safe and appropriate for Antwone. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the Freeport School District negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, failed to work in conjunction with the JRC and Ms. Nicholson to develop an IEP, ITP, or similar plan for the education, treatment, and training of Antwone. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the Freeport School District negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, failed to ensure that the education, treatment, and training received by Antwone at the JRC was in compliance with the policies and procedures of New York State agencies that operate educational programs. In breach of its duty of care owed to Antwone, the Freeport School District negligently, recklessly, and in wanton disregard of Antwone's life, health, and safety, failed to ensure that the JRC did not use or inflict corporal punishment in direct contravention of the New York State's and Freeport School District's policy regarding no corporal punishment. The above referenced breaches of duty and of care and negligent conduct caused to Antwone serious physical injury, as well as serious emotional and mental anguish and anxiety. As a result, Antwone has been damaged in the amount to be determined at trial. We'll go into the rest of this tomorrow on my birthday. Look, does it look like I'm going to turn 37? Do I look my age yet? Probably not. Anyways, this is all extremely self-explanatory and damning. Were it anywhere other than the JRC, this one lawsuit and all the facts it dragged up and proved in court beyond a shadow of a doubt would alone be enough for people to get involved and get that place raided. My God, if a case came out like that in regards to one of our day programs or group homes around here, oh hell, the firestorm. Woo! That place wouldn't be around for very long. I can promise you that. And yet this place remains unrated, and the parents who defend it don't sound all too different from cult members following a cult. And I don't think that that's an accident. Matthew Israel, while in Harvard, he wanted to use the ideas of behavioral modification that were coming out at the time in order to found this perfect world. So think about that. Think about the methods he learned how to use. We're talking in the 30s and 40s here. And think about how these parents that have bought everything he was selling, how adamantly they defend this school. My God, it is cult-like. It is absolutely cult-like. And the massive power this one school is able to wield, I don't think I have seen that matched by any other school, private or public, in my entire life. So, just a little bit of food for thought. We're going to go ahead and close out here. I want to relax before we do the birthday stream. So we don't get very many views on this channel. And the few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So folks, please don't forget to hit that like button. Hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the comments. And please feed that algorithm. I do appreciate your time this morning. And as always, we here at Smelly Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.